middle child.
Okay, so the same question is posed to you. How did you get here? And what made you choose your path? You're there. We can hear you.
Okay. So in the birth order, I am the middle child of 5 girls. And so they heard you say that I grew up on a farm with my family in rural Alabama. And so being the middle child, there's a lot of distance between myself and my second sister and my fourth sister. So pretty much I was a loner. I was not in school at the same time that any of them were. So I pretty much did things by myself. And so going through that experience, I had to figure out a lot of things. Early on, when I was in grade school, my teachers sought me out to, back in the day where I grew up, the teacher ran the entire class, so you didn't change classes. I won't tell you guys how old I am because I'm older than anybody else here on the stage, but so my teachers would seek me out if they had to go to a meeting. They would leave me in charge of the class. So as I've thought about my life, early on, I was brought up in a leadership capacity. Helping my parents run the farm. We did a lot of business transactions because they also worked a job in a manufacturing company. So my sisters and we had a lot of responsibility growing up. And throughout high school, I just became a natural leader, being the first in my family to be involved in any extracurricular activities, the first in my family to graduate at the top of my class. And then as I evolved through life, I was sought out for a lot of different leadership roles. From a corporate standpoint, I worked in corporate America for 27 years. I worked for ComEd for 27 years. And that experience, I started out as a mail clerk. I worked my way up I went into customer service. While I was in customer service, I realized that that's not where I want to be. I'm a leader. I need to be in more of a leadership role. So I decided to go back to college and get my degree while raising my 2 kids with my husband. So I went back to school and I got my undergraduate degree. And while I was working in customer service and ComEd, and I would share with some of my peers, I want to go into a leadership role. And I was told by some people, you're not going to be able to do that. And I've always liked to prove people wrong. So I said, well, watch me. So I went into leadership role in ComEd and I excelled rather quickly. I moved up into a position based upon my performance. And so I ran our meter reading department for the city of Chicago. I was also told I wouldn't be able to do that. So what I learned from that is if you don't open your mouth and ask, you will never know. So I tell people, and I have a series that I do on this, you don't know what you don't know. If you don't ask, you won't ever know. So what's the worst that you can get? Is no, right? So I learned to open my mouth and ask. And that was also based upon some of my experiences because as I was in the management ranks and I was doing a really good job, I saw some of my male colleagues being promoted above me. But I knew I was doing a really, really good job. But I wasn't tooting my own horn like males do. So I started to toot my own horn. And I started to talk about Terrie. So as a result of that, I was given an opportunity to take on a position where I was able to go and look at an organization within our company to build in some efficiencies and look at some cost effectiveness opportunities, some ways to save money. So I was very successful in that role, and I was able to save the company over $15 million a year on that project. So after that, they said, well, what do you want to do, Terrie? So I said, you know what? I never thought I would have that opportunity. So I decided to go into economic development. a field that I knew nothing about because I am a business major, so I knew nothing about economic development. You heard me say I like to be first. I color outside the lines. I don't like to be put in a box. So I decided to go into economic development. I was the only female in our economic development department. So it afforded me the opportunity to do a lot in the community. So as I built collaborations and resources in the community, I started to learn a lot about business and business opportunities, and I built a huge network of resources. So I was in that role for a short period of time, and then I was asked, well, what do you want to do next? I was in that role for about a year and a half, and I did really well in that role. And I was asked, well, what do you want to do next? So I said, I want to do something more in a governmental affairs type of role, political arena. So I decided to go into what's called our External Affairs Department. And that opened up a world of opportunity for me. While I was in that role and doing the community service that I do in Aurora where I live, I looked at the fact that there was not a lot of resources for women business owners, especially those who are underserved, African American and Hispanics. So myself and two other women business owners and one of the state representatives went to the CEO of the Women's Business Development Center of Chicago, and we pitched the idea to them that we needed some resources in Aurora for women's business owners. Glory be to God, we were able to get one of two grants that were awarded in the nation to open up a women's business center in Aurora to serve women. We provide all kinds of resources from helping women get funding for their business. So it's a myth if you think that there's no money out there for women business owners, for African American business owners, but you gotta be ready. You have to do some things. You gotta make sure that your credit is pretty good, okay? You have to understand when you're going to banks that you need to have a business plan because they're taking risk with you. So you have to have a plan so they can understand what you're going to do with the money and that if it's worth the risk. And so the program that we initially started was called Scale Up for Established Businesses. That program did so well, we went back to the federal government, got some additional funding where we were able to open a women's business center. And you heard me say that you have to ask, right? So I went to the CEO of our company, ComEd, and I said, we're gonna open up a full-blown women's business center in Aurora. Can I have the opportunity to work alongside that center and get it up and going? She said, sure. She said, I'm gonna do even better than that. I'm gonna pay you for a whole year and let you run that center and get it up and going. And I was floored. No one in ComEd had ever done anything like that before. So when I tell you, you have to ask for what you want, you don't know what you don't know, if you don't open your mouth and ask. So that's how I got here. So while I was working beside other women, I realized I am an entrepreneur by heart. So not only can I help other women, but I can also help myself in the process. And so that's how I got here.